Hi, good morning, everyone. It being 11:15 on Tuesday, April 19th, we'll call the order the Kane County Elected Officials Salary Review Ad Hoc Committee. Aaron, if you could call the roll, please.
Berman,
Berman's here.
Ford,
Ward present.
Hickey, Pirog, Sturgis.
Surges here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, we are not doing minutes because I received a note saying that they were not ready for today's meeting. But it was a very short meeting last time, so I think we were just outlining goals and objectives. That's correct, right? We don't have that. Okay, I don't see anyone in the room for public comment, nor do I see anyone online. However, I do see Commissioner Gums and Commissioner Allen. Thank you for joining.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
Good morning. New and unfinished business. If I could just make a quick statement before we go into everything. Under discussion notes, I have these are not in any particular order. These are just my notes, but are we in consensus with the following? The 4 mandatory electeds to be addressed include the treasurer, the county clerk, the sheriff, and the county board. Those are our mandated essentials for these discussions. Mr. Berman, are you okay with that?
Fine.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Perfect. It is my understanding that the sheriff's situation seems to be handled by a mandate of the state. Are we all in, has everybody read that and seen that it looks like that has passed?
Yes.
Okay. The only caveat I'm putting in is that the bare minimum, the computation for Ron comes to be at about 151,000. I don't know that the bare minimum is my goal. So I am asking us to consider 160 for the jump-in point for Ron. Again, this is still an enormous savings for the county because the state is kicking in 2/3 of the mandate. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Ron?
Yeah, one question.
Yes.
Is that is that only for a short period of time? Is that for?
Well, my understanding is that's permanent. Yeah, that's permanent. Yeah.
We could change that, at this point in time, we could say it's gonna change every year for those 4 years that he's elected.
I think you're asking, is the state level stuff a permanent funding? And my understanding is absolutely.
That was my question.
Yes.
We can make it 160 to start with and change it
Surely. Yes.
162 the next year and 164 the next year.
Yeah, surely. But 160 is where I'm suggesting that I'm not sure the signal of saying we're at, what's the bare essential minimum that we can pay this individual. I'm not suggesting that that's where we start. So, okay.
I have if I could follow up on that.
Yes, ma'am.
This is just public,
Welcoming Madam Chair to the meeting.
the world of public opinion via the Daily Herald Facebook page. It was brought to my attention that there is overwhelming support for this additional compensation for the sheriff. There were 19 comments, all of which were positive, and I will read one that directly applies to the requested amount. 160K actually seems low based on the amount of responsibility, just one taxpayer's opinion.
As Madam Chair, I can comment that in the research that I did over the weekend, when Jim Fuller's newspaper article came out, the responses to the article were absolutely in favor of our direction, while later over the weekend, the blogs lit up and all of the opponents or negative or other side of the coin came out in the blogs. And I just found that so incredibly interesting. I didn't understand the rhyme or reason. Why would somebody go to their keyboard and put one thing in a blog, but not respond to it in the editorial comments? And I just found that to be interesting. you know, and that was in the, you know, the neighborhood app next door.
Next door.
So,
Okay.
I mean, and it was all over, whether it was at least in the ends that I look at, which are the Dundees, the Pingrees, the Algonquins, up in that neck. The negatives were all on those neighborhood blogs, where all the positives were on the newspaper site. So I don't, that's my commentary. I don't have anything more to say about it.
The up
Barbara?
north people, huh?
What's that?
The up north people.
The up north
The-
people,
The
yes,
UP people.
yes.
Just a quick comment, the 160 is not set in stone forever, so we can always address this at another time, correct, in the future, so.
That's my understanding,
Yeah,
yes.
so this would be, I think,
years.
a reasonable start.
I'm just again suggesting that bare minimum is not the signal that I choose to share with,
Yeah,
you
okay.
know,
I think 160 bare minimum. You look at some of the police chiefs in the area. Well over 100.
Dale, I also found that interesting, the, where we had mentioned last time that the Citizens Advisory Panel, seemingly, there was a gray line when using the terms county versus municipal versus local versus. When I dove into this, it seemed that the municipal level police chiefs seemed pretty heavily compensated comparatively. And in diving into some of the comparatives across county lines, that struck me as unusual, that the police chief of a town of 8,000 people, you know, is making more than a sheriff of a county of 500,000 people. I was struggling with that comparison and how that rationale worked. But again, my goal was just to bring it forward and say this is where I think we need to be, so. The next
Chaperone
item I had
comments?
was the board members I have spoken with are not asking for any increase or changes to the board compensation, nor are they asking any decrease in benefits, as it seems counterintuitive to maintain the quality of the individuals and the goal we've set for the quality of those individuals coming onto the board. I don't want to speak out of line. Barbara, is that your understanding as well?
Yes,
Ron,
Yes, yes, it is.
Mr. Berman?
Well.
use your mic, Dale.
It can be addressed.
Yeah, you use your microphone, Dale.
It certainly can be addressed.
Address how? We're looking for a recommendation to continue conversation forward, and what I'm hearing is of the board members that I polled, and I tried, I mean, I think I called about 16 people. Nobody said, yes, I need more money to stay on this board and I'm looking for a raise, but I equally don't want anybody taking anything from me. And then, you know, the 2-minute conversation turned into 45 minutes of, you know, I work way more than 30 hours a week and how are we compensated? And I just didn't want to get into the weeds that far. But I wanted to say that the people that I've spoken with have said, we're not looking for an increase. But we don't want you taking anything away from us either. We're satisfied where we're at.
Okay.
The committee members I spoke with do not feel compelled to align or offer an interim packet to any of the non-mandated elected positions at this time.
Oh, are we done with your recommendation for the county board members? Or is
Um,
this all still part of this?
No, we can dial back and come to that.
I just wanted to bring to your attention, I asked Jamie, and I'm not advocating at all. I'm just bringing a fact, something for your consideration, which I would like you to actually consider as you're taking a look at compensation for anybody else, including staff, as we get to that conversation, which will happen in the near future. I asked what the difference would be between the current CPI over a 10-year period, the growth of CPI or the change of CPI versus a 2% increase, and what would be the difference. And I thought it would be interesting just to start with the county board compensation. 2012, you're compensated at 25,000. If you had gone through the CPI over a 10-year period, just kept up with that average, your compensation would be equal to $30,281.
Madam Chair, 1 second.
Can you bring that up?
Yes, it was emailed to Blair and it's in everybody's packet that I handed out that's printed. Mhm.
Yeah, I
I'm
have
so
it.
sorry. No.
Like
what-
page
Yeah, it's
number
page 3 of these, not that packet, the other one, there was 2. Yep, page 3 of that packet. There it is.
You go.
Oh, very good. Now,
Is this what you're speaking to, Madam Chair?
I am indeed. If you take a look at the 2% increase in compensation over a period of 10 years, they're pretty much equal. Now, it was the recommendation of the advisory committee for everyone to be considered to have an increase, I believe, at 2% annually or CPI over a period of time. So the reason I'm reflecting on this and wanted just to bring it to your attention, a different way of looking at items, you are actually in 2021 dollars, you're making around 21,000 a year. So I know that you're not here to make money. You're not here to make a salary. It is public service.
Mr. Chairman, Shepro,
Show you the difference.
Ken, if you could hang hold on just 1 second, we'll come to you. Madam Chair, were you?
I'm done.
Okay, and the information that we have on screen, Ken and Michelle, can you see, and Deb, can you see what's on screen?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so on this, I was curious with this to say the cost of living increase, if you will. I was curious to see if in fact the 2% union wages had kept pace with that. And I think it's pretty darn close. I mean, if I did my math correct, 21% versus 21.1 versus 20.68. Trying to make a best guess scenario for the future, I'm not objected to that. On the other hand, for the county board, when I asked the question, do we need to build an increment into you for the 24 board members? The answer I received was no. So I understand that the advisory council may be indicating we should build in a 2% cost of living in there. I did not hear that from those that I polled. Mr. Shepro.
Shepro, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My impression from sitting in the meeting where at the advisory committee is that for the board members, they recommended no 2%. They said we were paid enough or we were overpaid. The 2%, as I understand it, was for the countywide elected officials. So I don't think they wanted to build anything in. And in any case, I would be one of the people that you spoke with that feels that we keep things where they are. But if you're going to talk about cost of living, at this point, I think 2% going forward, based upon just the last couple months and the reasonable outlook, is going to turn out to be ridiculously low. And I'd be shocked if the unions say we only want 2% when it's going at a rate of 8.5% as of March and probably going higher.
Mr. Shepard, if I may, this was a mathematical exercise. So whether or not we're looking at what this anomaly is with the future bump in inflation, which the federal government we know is trying very hard to control for all the right reasons, and whether or not we're going to be continuing inflation or we're going to go into recessionary times is yet something that I think is beyond the conversation that we're having right here at this committee. But to your point, this just gives you an indication based on financial review of what real dollars would have been if you had gone through either a wage increase of 2% annually to keep up with the perceived cost of inflation, historical cost of inflation, or based on CPI. So that you earnings keep up with inflation, so you're not losing money. It's as simple as that. It's nothing
well,
political.
Yeah, and again,
Well,
not a debate.
I'm not
just saying-
sure. Well, no, I take a point of personal privilege. I take it, nothing I said suggested it was political, and I kind of resent that, frankly. All I did was comment about what the committee did and did not do.
Correct. That is correct.
And I don't understand why that becomes a political position.
No, it's nothing political. This is just a financial analysis.
If the fact of the matter is the Citizens Advisory did not do a raise for the 24-member county board, and this ad hoc committee is saying, we don't feel there's a raise needed for the 24-member county board, then I believe we're in consensus on that and can move this forward.
And
Well, I'd like-
But I do appreciate the exercise, and I think it was, because I will make mention that while the exercise is prudent, the exercise is insufficient or does not have enough data in there because the raises didn't occur at different levels in other conversations we'll be having. And a jump might be needed in addition to a CPI increase. Different conversation, don't want to go there yet. But that's where I thought this was going to be used, not for this conversation.
this is just to bring this up because
Yep.
I think there's going to be other looks at what the other elected officials' compensation is. May I ask, is this the will of this committee to define this for each elected term, whether it's a 2-year or 4-year term? The suggested compensation.
We have not gone there yet, but the very next item on my conversation is that the 2 remaining positions in everything that we've discussed so far, and let's refresh that because we didn't all arrive at the same time here. In this committee, there are 4 mandatory electeds that need to be addressed, include the treasurer, the county clerk, the sheriff, and the county board.
Correct.
Of those, the sheriff seems to be handled via the state mandate. So if I'm going to cross off the sheriff, then I'm going to come to the board members that we've just addressed. I'm going to cross off the board members.
No.
The committee members I've spoken, so the 2 remaining positions that we need to be focused on are the treasurer and the county clerk.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr.
I
Berman.
think the question that Madam Chair asked was, we have some members who are going to be elected for 2 years on our county board, and some are going to be elected for 4 years. at the
Oh, I'm sorry.
upcoming election.
Interesting.
And so therefore, are we making a decision for those that are elected 2 years and those that are elected for 4 years, or just for everyone? Or
Mr. Berman,
however?
to answer your question, I didn't address that. Quite honestly, I said the county board as is it's in its entirety at this snapshot in time. We're not interested, the people that I spoke with didn't say that they were interested in gaining or losing anything, that were satisfactory with where we're at. And I didn't differentiate that. Maybe I should have. I did not differentiate that between 2 years and 4-year terms. We said we were okay with where we're at right now.
Mr. Chairman, Ford,
Sure, Mr. Ford.
it might be just a thought that we might want to have this set, if it's possible, for 2 years and set up so that we review it in 2 more years.
I did reach out to
You
the,
can't change it, the 4-year people in 2 years unless we do it now.
Correct. That's correct.
We
Well,
can say now that. in
Shepro comment.
years-
let Dale finish up.
Yeah, I thought he was finished.
No,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
not. I'm saying that we can't, we can propose something for that would change 2 years from now, but would have to be approved now by the board, not wait till 2 years to be approved. We can only change it before the election of those people.
Correct. That's correct.
And that's the way it is. I propose that we increase it to $30,000 and let the board make the decision as to whether or not they want that to be an increase or not be an increase.
My understanding of the ad hoc is it is just advisory.
Yes,
So all we are doing is taking our research and data, making it available to everybody. But what I'm hearing is that there is not the desire or the ask, if you will,
Mhm.
for an increase. And Dale, honestly, I did not differentiate between 2-year or 4-year. I just said at this time. So my question, and Jamie, maybe you have this. Can this raise for the 24-person board only occur now? Or can it be reviewed in 6 years, in 2 years,
2
in
years.
whatever?
My understanding is you can review it any time, but then it would only be for those up for election. You'd have to wait till the new term was elected. So you'd have a staggered group. So at the time in which you made that effective, only half the board members would be receiving that raise. The other half would have to wait till 2 years for them to be reelected. So there would be a stagger, but you can address it anytime. This is the only time you can address everyone all at
All
once.
24 in one swoop is right now.
Correct.
And what we're saying right now in one swoop, we're satisfied where we're at. We don't want to lose anything. We're not interested in gaining anything of those people that I spoke with.
Thank you,
Barbara.
Mr. Chair. As a long-term serving board member, historically, we kept it the same for everybody. To me, it would just be not a good idea to have some board members have an increase for 2 years and then the other board members possibly getting the same increase in the next 2 years. I think to leave everything equal, I think is the best way to do it.
That's
My own opinion.
but we can do that.
poundingly, that's what everybody said. That
Yes.
had any amount of tenure on the board.
And as I said, historically, that's the way we've always done it.
Okay.
But we could make the decision right now to say that we're going to increase it 2 years from now for everyone.
You can.
We can make that decision now. The
Mhm.
board can pass it now and it would take effect 2 years.
You can.
And I'm hearing that nobody is interested in that. I'm sorry, I'm hearing that the majority of the people that I spoke with are not interested in that. And Mr. Berman, that doesn't mean that you're not interested in that. It's just, that's
that's
just
all
what
right.
I heard. So,
I'm just saying that what we can do and what we can't do, because I've gone
Mhm.
through this many
Yeah.
times.
so given that, it doesn't sound like we're in unanimous on that, but Barbara, where are you sitting?
Our
For the
original,
24 county board members,
I'd say keep them all the same. That's my opinion.
keep them all the same, meaning
2-year and the 4-year, the increase for the 24 members of the county board.
no
I mean,
increase,
no
no
increase. I'm
decrease, just
sorry.
leave it,
No increase, yeah.
leave it
no
level.
increase.
Ron?
Yeah,
I actually wouldn't have a problem in 2 years from now to have a small increase. I wouldn't say 30, but whether it's a 2% or 3% or something like that. The thing about that will only be for those who had elected that position. The other ones have to wait 2 more years before they received it. I believe that has happened before, and that wouldn't be uncommon.
Mhm.
So I would not be against the idea of 2 years from now that is increased either from somewhere around 2 or 3%. I wouldn't want to see no more than that.
I didn't hear anybody say that it should increase to 30. What I heard was a cost of living increment at some point down the road. Am I
That's what I'm
mistaken on
saying.
that?
Yes.
Okay.
So why don't we say then a $2,000 increase that would go into effect for all 24 board members 2 years from now?
My thought is that I would not be in favor of that, but that's just me. That's just me. And unfortunately, we're a 4-person panel, it looks like. And Madam Chair, you are a part of this, so I guess if we're in a tie break situation, I guess this will fall.
Oh, not here, because your only recommendation, that would be at the full board,
We don't have a unanimous recommendation.
and that's okay.
Okay,
That's okay.
yeah, if that's okay, that's what I'm hearing from you.
Mhm.
If the notes can reflect Sturgis and Wanicki.
Yeah, this whole argument we brought up again at our meeting.
It's not an argument, it's a conversation.
Discussion.
I don't mean
Argument?
If, according to the packet, I'm just using information that we've gathered. According to the packet that you received last meeting, right now, this probably should be updated because this reflects 21 compensation for all the other area. This was put out by the auditor. All the other counties who have compensation for their boards. And I know McHenry is considering a compensation increase. I don't know about Will, but I'm sure that's up for discussion. Lake and DuPage, which do have larger populations, pay significantly more than Kane County. And Kane County will possibly be, if it is kept, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just saying it could be, at 25,000, be the lowest of all of the local areas. Now, Winnebago is an exception, but that is a much lower population than what we have here in Kane. So you'll be at the lowest level, potentially, or just about equal to the lowest level. If McHenry County increases its compensation, which is currently now at 21,000, but they've also reduced the size of their board to 18.
Most of the data that I've looked in those comparatives seemed as if, and Jamie, keep me on track on this, seems as if the Kane County is very much smack in the middle. We could find support that there are counties paying significantly less than us, not just for their board members, but across the board in pay. And we can find those counties that are paying significantly more than us. As Jamie pointed out to me, Cliff, your comparison is that you're looking at future pay against present comparisons. And I guarantee you that if you looked at this 6 months from now, your comparison would have already adjusted up and you will be behind. Am I saying that even remotely?
Yeah,
Because I liked
exactly.
I liked your analysis
Right.
and I didn't like what you.
To Madam Chair's point, pretty much all the other counties, I've received a lot of solicitations from them. What do you pay? Because we're evaluating our compensation right now. That all of the counties in the area are evaluating their compensation for both their elected officials and their staff right now. So when you're looking at this data, you're saying, what should we set for our future, for our next 10 years based on what they pay today? But they are also doing those same comparisons right now. So a year from now, after their changes have gone into effect, we're going to show behind is what I think would probably happen if you didn't change.
Does
that.
everybody understand that? In the timeline, where do you jump in? And so I spent the weekend looking at all these numbers and Jamie blows me out of the water and goes, but you're looking at their old numbers, trying to compare our future numbers. Their numbers are going to change. And I really didn't factor that in. And I appreciated her articulating that. Didn't like what she had to say, but I appreciated it. So, but to that end, if we could move then to the remaining two, which are the treasurer and the county clerk, because I believe those are the two mandated that we need to have a recommendation for moving forward. And with that, I will take and move us back to the regular agenda items under new and unfinished business, salary recommendations. And I believe then it is the treasurer and county clerk sections. And what you have in front of you is the red section is our mandate. Our blue section is where they're current and what the advisory council recommended. And for those two, let's just, let's not look at the sheriff, let's not look at the county board. We're not looking at the remaining of the electeds. We're not looking at the county board chair. We're looking at treasurer and clerk. And I'm open to begin that conversation wherever needed, but it looks like we have to take action. They're currently at 100,000 per year. The advisory council said a 5% jump with a 2% annual increase. We could look at this a number of ways. You could look at it from a cost of living. You could look at it as revenues to the county. You can look at it as comparison against other counties. I'm not sure what methodology is correct, but those are three that I offer you for comparison and conversation. And I will open it up to you for dialogue. Mr. Berman, as our finance chair, you probably have the most insight on this. So
I wouldn't say that. But I certainly have some thoughts along that. I think that we could, they're recommending that the advisory, Citizens Advisory Group is recommended 105,000. And I wouldn't, I'd go along with 105,000 with a $2,000 increment for the next each year for the next 3 years up until a total of 200 or 111,000. Rather than the 2%, I'd rather keep it at $0.
could I ask why? And Dale, understand, I am looking to you as a mentor with years of experience. You may have a reason why a fixed fee versus a percentage is better. And I would love to hear that. I would love to learn.
Well, I just think it's easier to discuss, it's easier to explain, and it's easier to print when people are looking at us as opposed to, $211 or, $242 or whatever. So that's, that's just my experience to go with the round numbers.
A round number. It's in my industry right now, in one of my industries, homeowners policies have all of a sudden, they've always been a fixed dollar deductible, where all of a sudden the newfangled math is a percentage deductible.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, but the percentage deductible is very deceiving if you don't understand how big of a percentage your deductible is. Do you not understand that? People like simple math.
Yes.
On the other hand, in relation specifically for your observation here, I kind of look at this and go, if the cost of living increase that we were able to document, if we were able to document that cost of living increase at 2% being very reasonable and keeping pace, then the 2% seems to be more appropriate to me than the dollar figure. But again, I don't have any background on that. Madam Chair, I would, and for those of you online, you are missing the yummy Jimmy John's that was just delivered as promised for lunch. So I apologize to you, but we're going to eat while we continue to work.
Okay, excellent.
Does that constitute illegal additional compensation?
You can classify it any way you want to. It's
Less
yummy.
than $100. We can.
So it's, and that was purchased by myself, not coming from any county funds or anything like that. So it is legal schmiegel, no big deal.
As long as it's under $25, we can accept the gift. Thank you.
If one of you eats more than $25 of Jimmy John's, we're going to wheel you out in a wheelbarrow. So, Madam Chair, and then Ron will come back to you.
Just reflecting on a point that you brought when we were talking about salary or compensation for the county board members that were in the middle. In this case, if we take a look at, again, the auditor's report, we are not in the middle. Matter of fact, we're at the low end for compensation for these two elected positions. McHenry County, which is a smaller county for the clerk, is 109,466. And the treasurer for McHenry County is 109,466. So we are not at the, like smack dab in the middle, given Lake and DuPage, which always have a significant bump. So we are below mean.
Yes. If you can bring up number 7 and put that online.
I'm just
We're going to bring that up online so we could all see it.
bringing up facts.
Yep.
No.
Madam Chair, a few minutes ago, we brought up that other chart for the cost of living
Mhm.
and
that's
the
also
2%. And again, I said, we're going to come back to that. Well, this is why that was such a wonderful exercise. Because because based on the advisory committee, the 2% statistically was proven to work. So, I mean, it kept up. So that was amazing. And what we have on screen here, if this is the comparison, the rank on this, the comparison is based, Kane County is first, and then it's alphabetical, not size, not dollar. Boone, DeKalb, DuPage, Kendall, Lake, McHenry, Ogle, Will, and Winnebago. So if we're going down and looking at the treasurer, right now, it says we're at 127,850. That's in conflict, Jamie, with my,
We're not at 120. Why do we have that salary? Because that is not the case.
right, it says 100,000 in the blue here, it says 127,850 there. Do you think that that's an aggregate with benefits or something else, or?
No, it's 100,000. I'm not sure where that came from.
That number is not accurate.
That
at all.
number
Okay,
is not
so
accurate.
let's
I
just.
believe-
That must have gotten resorted.
Look at the title, look at
It's
the title
including
of this chart.
benefits.
There you go.
Oh, is that one including?
including benefits?
Okay, that's not the same one that I meant to put in the packet. When I
Okay,
put it
so as
together.
long
That
as
should not be-
including benefits for Kane,
But
it
is it
includes benefits across the board, so the comparison is apple to apple.
Winnebago?
For comparison's sake, I'm okay with that.
No, I'm not. I'm not, because each one of the benefit packages may be separate and different for each one of the counties. They may be paying differently for their health, and they may be accepting different kinds of health programs. So I'd like to have more of an equal to an equal, just base compensation,
Okay,
excluding benefits.
That would be.
The one we handed out before had that as a separate column, and so this must have just grabbed the wrong summary when I put this particular group together. But we do have the other one. It's what we looked at before. It's what we were looking at last night when we were looking at it.
do we have it that we can put up onto here?
I can send it to Blair right now so that he can pull it
Let's
up.
do that. Let's pass out lunch while Blair is pulling that up, because I think this becomes critical to the conversation. Don't all stampede for lunch. Come on.
There we go.
I'm hungry.
I did ask Christine, I texted her and asked, oh, she probably. They did. There's cans of soda in the bottom of the box. Is all cans of soda. I have it. I'm going to use my phone. I have to find it here in the. Yes, that was the correct one.
It's all online. Goes online and who
Sorry,
else?
Jamie, I should have.
Gums is here and I heard that they're freaky fast and, just kind of throwing that out there.
Hi, Michelle. Who else is
Hi.
there?
Michelle wants us to deliver to her home.
Oh, I see.
Was that the translation?
It was. You're speaking gums.
Mr. Chairman, this is Alan.
Yes, Deb.
Just wanted to say that's a very sweet thing for you to do. Bon appetit.
Thank you. This is a reward for the commissioners that said we'll take our lunchtime to come and be able to do this. It's so important that we stay on target with this and not miss the deadline.
No, you can't.
This is all
Roger,
wrong.
grab a sandwich.
All right, well, actually, Chris was supposed to take me to lunch. I don't want to spoil my appetite. I'm gonna.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. We'll see what Chris wants. Maybe he'll settle for a sandwich. You'd asked me to look into like that the other day, and there was no record of anybody downloading any of that. So we're good.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, only uploads.
Okay,
So people are
Wonderful.
pushing stuff up. Nothing came down.
perfect.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was surprised. They had a lot of information, a lot more than I thought. Yeah.
Okay,
on the
Good.
website.
that's good. That makes me happy.
Yes, and I sent it to Blair, so we should have it here in a minute.
How was that? They should be pretty good. I haven't tried it yet. No. How was the meeting? Or you just taking a break?
Oh, yeah, you guys are going, go. Go.
Let me see it real quick.
No, yeah, you're not even
Let me know right now.
able to purchase the same, I mean, because CPI is. Oh, I met with our health worker yesterday. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's just. kinda helping out.
Oh, it's in Office 365.
Got mine.
Yeah, Office 365 is a little different.
Thank you, Blair.
Okay, so your C Surges, right? Oh, board.
When we got to this, and I didn't know which one to push. I got to that.
Pop this off and tell us to put it.
There we go. For those online, Blair was able to get the other version up for us. Is that shared out to them?
Yes, we've got it.
Yep.
Jamie, can you confirm that what's on screen is the correct Not the correct, but the other version.
Yes, that's the correct one now.
All right, so if we look at this and we're on the treasurer. 77, DeKalb is at 95. DuPage, wow, 175. Kendall, 102, Lake, 127, 109 for McHenry, 84 for Ogle, 93 for Will, 85 for Winnebago. Again, if I have to chart this out, I think we wind up pretty smack in the middle. And in the conversations I was having, it's remember, you're in the middle comparing against today's data, not tomorrow's data. So if we're. Didn't work. I'm sorry, say it again.
I'm sorry. We're not in the middle. We're below middle. We're like the second lowest. And a Boone and DeKalb, where if we look at population, those
I'm just looking at dollar figures.
those are usually
Yeah, I'm just looking at dollar figures.
numbers against those. Oh, it's interesting information, but they're much smaller.
Yeah. So based on this, if we're going to use a comparative model, Mr. Berman, if you're saying the 105 seems to be an appropriate.
Well, that wasn't what I was gonna propose, but that was the starting point of the,
Advisory Council, Citizen
no,
Advisory.
I was proposing 110,000. And then a $2,000 increment every year, next 4 years. That was gonna be my proposal. but
Barbara, do you have any thoughts on this?
Looking at this and thinking about it, I would say we do the 5% increase and not the consecutive year after year 2% increase. Just keep it at a 5% increase.
Just a one-time bump
One-time bump. That's my thinking.
for now. So let me ask you, Barb. This is not fair. I'm asking Barb a question that she can't answer and possibly pivoting back to Jamie, who just put a sandwich in her mouth, sorry. If we choose to do that, can this salary ever be adjusted in the interim? Why are we looking at this now? Why is there an urgency? And do we have any means of adjusting this in the future?
If you're talking about the countywide elected officials, they can be adjusted anytime before their term begins. So you can adjust it again in 4 years.
Okay.
Mhm.
So if this is in the 4-year cycle, at the next 4-year cycle, it can in fact be reviewed and adjusted.
For the next 4-year cycle, right? This, you'll be setting it at least their next 4 years, so the full term.
And Barb, you're suggesting sticking with the advisory council's 105,
Yes.
but not having an incremental increase.
Yes.
Ron, what are your thoughts?
Now, since Barb mentioned it, that's my first time actually thinking about that. I have no problem with what's being presented today because of where things, what took place back in 2012 until now. If we were to do I'm not totally against doing the 105 and holding off on the increments with the thought that in at least 2 years, we'd be able to review this again. So which.
But if we reviewed it in 2 years, you wouldn't be able to take action until the
Exactly.
4-year threshold.
Right. So because of that, I don't have any problem with what's being presented
By the advisory council.
by the advisory council.
Okay. My personal opinion, Blair, I'm going to challenge you one more time, and Jamie, can we pull up the revenue chart over the 10-year cycle that was provided?
CPI.
Nope. Revenues to the county.
It's the last page of the packet that is printed, the smaller packet for Blair, page 5.
Larry, you're the best. Thank you for being so flexible. So if I looked at this and did the math, the county has truly been relatively flat in terms of the 10-year amount of funds generated. Dale, would you mind could you do the math really quick? If it's at 32 million in 2022 and we were at 31.7, is that less than a 3% increase?
Definitely.
Okay. So if the revenues in have been less than 3% over the 5-year or 10-year period,
That's low.
are we suggesting, so across different models, revenue stream in,
That's less than one.
comparative cost of living, 3 different silos that you could use to compare with. I'm just making sure that for the public, for the other 24 members that are voting on this, I want everybody to know, we've looked at this and there has been an increase in revenues. We're not competing at the top end of the comparison model, and the cost of living has been proven at the 2% mark to keep up. I'm kind of okay with the advisory council's recommendation.
So for clarity, you're okay with 105 plus 2% annual increase?
Personally, yes.
To take a look at the CPI over 2012 to 2021, in real money, if it just kept up with CPI, that would be $121,126. If it's based on 2%, and there are 2 years that have 2.5% increase, 1 year with 0, that was in 2018 during the Great Recession, it would be 120,684. This is just to keep up with the cost of living. So end over end, that individual, I'm not just that individual, would be making less money at 105,000. They'd be making it based on compensation from 2016 or 2017 for the cost of goods.
I'm totally aware of that. And I'm suggesting I'm okay with the 5%. Yeah. That's where I'm at. And Dale's probably not the guy. Barbara, you probably the person. In terms of how salaries for the electeds have been determined before, did they ever have an incremental increase, a cost of living increase?
Yes, because they pretty much follow what the
Did
labor
management follow the rank and
unions-
file? I guess is kind of what I'm asking.
Yeah, and the unions increases, they try to keep them pretty much.
So
the
if we gave a
same.
union, if the union contract said X, and then as a county board, we said the non-union employees also are getting X,
Mhm.
did the management level elected officials also get X? Did they get more than X or less than X?
I don't know, I can't answer.
I can't
that.
answer that. I don't have any
Yeah,
idea.
I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Allen.
Hey, Deb.
Hi. Management, yes. If you remember, in every committee, there is a resolution that says we will extend that 2% to the management person who is under that committee's umbrella. But electeds, no. The electeds, that figure that was given is what it has been. The county clerk and the treasurer have been at 100,000 since that was set, and I think that goes back to 2010.
And they have not taken a cost. You're suggesting they have not taken a cost of living increase.
That was in
No,
2009, Deb.
because we never gave it to them. Now, just historically, let me share with you, we made that change from the Human Services Committee, and I was sitting on it at the time. That's the only reason I can tell you. And the recommendation from Human Services was that with the next cycle, the 2 years after, in other words, let's see, 2009, then it would have been 2011, we were going to raise the auditor, and the coroner, and the circuit clerk, and who's the fourth one? Recorder. We were going to raise those 4 offices in the next cycle to 100,000 to bring them up so that they'd all be even. But we had a recession and there was no political will to do that. So that's the reason that the treasurer and the county clerk have been at 100,000, but the other 4 offices, not the sheriff, not the state's attorney, but the other 4 offices were so much less. They never caught up. Just historical information.
And if I may, in the packet, I have dated minutes, May 9th, 2006. The county clerk in 2006, compensation was 85,000. And then to your point, Mr. Surges, it has 0.234 with increments increasing a little at a time to December 1st, 2009, right, to 100,000. So that salary or that compensation has been set since 2009.
So it didn't take, it wasn't following some computation. It was following a chart that was agreed to.
Yes.
Okay.
And that I have that from, so we can reflect on that as well and
Okay.
pull that information up.
Then for the record, I would not be interested in building in, if historically they have not taken that cost of living, I am not in favor of adding it at this point. If it seems like we have been incrementally going and adjusting them, that's just me.
$5,000 increments annually for the 4 years. And then it was flat.
So I don't know where we go from here to there, but there is a question, there's a question being begged that's in the back of my head saying, is it our goal to in fact align all of the electeds at a base level? And I bring that up because I believe that there was an email that was out there that I read where one elected official may have been suggesting that all elected officials should be at a base level. I am most certainly not in agreement with that. A person that heads a 4-person department is not equal to a person that heads a 100-person department. And in as much, I don't believe that those salary bases are comparable in any way, shape, or form. So that's not to say that the duties they perform aren't admirable or the amount of energy they put into it. But if I have to make a comparative measure, the person responsible for just say a $10 million budget is not compensated the same level as a person responsible for a $1 million budget. And that's just, again, throwing information out there for conversation's sake, not where to go. So if we can come back to the treasurer and county clerk, do we have any consensus to move forward on that? Barbara, you're saying the 5% is okay
Yes,
with no increment from there.
yes.
Ron, you're saying the 5% catch up is
Okay,
not like ketchup mustard, like, but being caught up, yes, is okay.
right.
But you would like an increment,
The 2%. I'm flexible with the 2%.
okay? Dale, you're saying the 5% is possibly not enough.
No, I'm saying 10% plus 2,000 a year for the next 4 years.
Okay, and I am similar to Barbara saying the 5% without the increment, and let the future board do the same comparison 4 years down the road, or 180 days before their 4 years. I would be okay with that. Madam Chair, you should weigh in on this as well.
I'm looking at all the data we have.
There's a lot of data. These are piles of information. I mean, I'm trying to find a model that works across everything and
And
there's,
thank you
and
for
there's not.
that. Yeah.
Here's the folder.
Yeah, Jamie and I have equal, believe me, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
I like the perception that you mentioned from Jamie previously. If we're taking a look at $105,000 today, that would bring that salary, as I mentioned previously, to about the 2017 cost of living. It's a good increase. It's a good start. But if we're going to be leaving that compensation for the next 4 years, that is going to continue whatever cost of living is going to continue to decrease. So that individual will continue to be making less money than they are today. And I understand fiscal responsibility. There's no question on that at all. But I just want to ensure that this is, to my understanding, certainly with the clerk, I assume the same with the treasurer, a full-time position with significant responsibilities. And I know that this is certainly support prudent use of public dollars without question, but I want to make sure that we're not ensuring that somebody may not leave this position to go to another county for a position that is a staff position, as happened previously, recently, because there was an increase in compensation, young family, other responsibilities, which I know is something that people will do, and everyone has to make their own decision. But I just want you to be careful to make sure that you really are considering not just fiscal prudence at this point, but think another 2-3 years down the line for what I truly believe is a full-time position.
And I don't, Madam Chair, you know what? The beauty of this committee is there's no right and wrong answer.
Mhm.
There's just opinions.
Right.
And the safety net of this is, by and large, 4 years from now, another board can look at this and say where we're at. But if I'm looking at this saying we're jumping to the 105 and I'm using a comparative chart, I think we're okay right there. I'm also looking at the comparative chart. I found this pretty shocking yesterday, that there's other counties that don't even have an elected auditor or an elected recorder, that those are departments that are within the county board. Then, you know, I don't know why that caught me off guard. But it did. And then, you know, I'm not trying to make a statement. It is what it is in the comparative analysis, and, you know, and put it out there. So, all right. Do we have notes on this where everybody stands in? Beautiful. Okay. I think the final item that we have up today is that Madam Chair's position is the county board chairman. We have an obligation, a mandatory obligation to review. We do not have a mandate to take action. We have an obligation to review. And the state's attorney's office has cautioned me to make sure that we don't ignore that we have a robust conversation. And then whichever direction we take from there is fine. But we are obligated to bring that up for discussion. And so if I can, I believe what we're saying is, for Madam Chair, Jamie, help me with this. Her compensation is not locked in for the next 10-year cycle. She can be adjusted at increments as well, or am I mistaken on that?
That's correct. Like the other county-wides, like the treasurer, it would be adjusted, could be adjusted every term. So every 4 years.
Okay, and if I can just, for those that have been in my committees, I think you realize I do not lead. I am not putting my thoughts or trying to interject my feelings ever to get to a destination. And that's most assuredly the same today. However, I will plant the seed that I believe that the chairman's office, the executive office, the C-suites could look dynamically different if this board so chose. And by that, of course, I mean an administrative level position. And I don't even know what that looks like. I don't even know, Madam Chair and I had a conversation maybe a year ago saying, what would the total cost of the C-suites be if we layered this, and this? And, in my mind, I was pretty easy at, $1.5 million. And then, of course, asked, well, what do you get for that additional expenditure of $1.5 million? Well, you get a communications officer, you get everything that we don't have now. And the question is, do we need it or do we not need it? But my point being, it could look very differently if this board so chose. So the conversation, my personal is that I don't want this to be a 10-year conversation. I really do want this to be a 4-year conversation and plant the seed that maybe we begin a review of, what do you ultimately want it to look like? Understand it doesn't look like it today, but if the county is on a growth trajectory, which is debatable whether we are or not, what might that look like? I don't have that answer. I just have that question. So with that said, Dale will lead to you to kind of spearhead this again as the finance chair. What are your thoughts on the county board chair? And just to make this even more comfortable, she's sitting right here in the room with us.
I'll always put in my 2 cents.
Well, that's really to be determined in 4 years, 2 more years.
Mhm, mhm.
That's not for us to determine today. 2 years from now.
Barbara,
I agree with Dale.
Ron,
Have we did comparison salaries with what's happening with the chair?
was that on that last screen?
It was on that same
Claire, can
sheet
you
with the other
toggle
officials.
forward. You're the best.
So county board chair is right above county board member, and then if they have a county administrator, that was at the bottom.
And I would love to say we're right in the middle, but I've been cautioned, I guess, already. So.
Actually, I have the auditor's report that was done a year ago, April 21. It is the second highest, due page 136, 959, and Kane 105, 328. However, and that however is critically important, we are the only county within the comps that does not have a county administrator. And that's a big however.
Madam Chair, I began the conversation specifically stating
Correct.
that we should be looking in a direction at some point. So my personal feeling is it's not appropriate to review this at this time. It's great to have the conversation if that's the mandate. But if her election period is, if the election period for that position
2 years.
is years out, then that inappropriate to look at it now. And I think that's being
Would agree.
consistent with everything we've said all day.
Well, the truth is, Mr. Chairman, if we made a decision now and the board approved it, it could be changed 2 years from now.
But it wouldn't, it would be an academic decision.
Because it wouldn't take effect
It
until
wouldn't take
then.
effect, so therefore it could be changed by the board 2 years now.
No, you could certainly hypothetically award the position, and I'm being outrageous here, $400,000 a year.
Yeah.
And in 2 years, the board can decide to alter that.
So it doesn't,
Okay, so if we're okay with that, I would like to report back to the state's attorney that we've had the review and that no action is taken in this cycle.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'm really reluctant to weigh in after listening to all this, but I do not.
Thank you for not
believe
weighing
that-
in then. We appreciate that, Captain.
I do not
Reluctant, he didn't say
believe,
He wasn't.
No, it's, yeah, you know what? I'll bring my point up at later on.
No, Ken, by all means.
An ad hoc committee discussion, I believe, does not satisfy the requirement that the board consider it if that is in fact the opinion of the state's attorney.
Ken, that is absolutely in writing the opinion of the state's attorney, and you may be correct, and I thank you for bringing that up. So Karen, if the notes can reflect, while the ad hoc discussed it, it is required to go to the next level for the county board's discussion.
Correct. That is correct.
Ken,
And
thank
if I
you.
may, I think the county board could say, thank you for your recommendation, and we have now considered it.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
He's absolutely correct.
Yes.
And your insights are always valuable. We appreciate that so much. Okay, if we can, if I could ask a question that maybe I truly don't know the answer to this, and I don't know that it's germane, but we're talking about a lot of numbers for a lot of people. We've talked about revenues coming into the into the county. We've talked about cost of living increases. Do we have any idea what the median income is of our constituents?
I believe we
Yeah,
have,
published.
we have that charted. If Blair, somewhere on our website, if you can pull up the county map. And if you can click on that, please.
Our per capita income.
I-
80,000 or something.
I think it's around, no, it's higher than that. I think it's
Higher
around,
than that?
I think it's around 73, but it'll give, we can pull up yours and we can pull up Aurora and it'll show the difference between mean.
I have no idea. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
and we have that data available.
It's less than DuPage, of course.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe not really, not by much. It's Jiminy Christmas.
Under maps, I think.
So many times people look at this stuff and go, oh, that was a good gotcha question. This is not a gotcha question. I don't know the answer to this. So I appreciate Blair even taking time to figure this out.
It's where the maps are.
So up the top bar, yeah.
And then go to, no, not the highway maps. It would be at Cunningham's office. Individual maps for the 24 board districts. Try clicking on that one.
Up one
You have to
more.
go through Jack's office.
Redistricting maps.
And again, I understand this is an unusual format for a committee, but that's why it's an ad hoc committee. That's why we did it over lunch. So I appreciate everybody's
And
patience.
I think we can, while he's trying to find that, I'll see if I can Google that. No, that's photos. So Google, I love this thing. Who's got Google on their phone?
Mr. Chair Gums.
Commissioner Gums,
You know, the census.gov has the median household income in King County from 2020 as 83,374.
83,000.
But I'm not, I mean, that's coming from census.gov.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and then the poverty is 7.3. So I mean, but it's all relative, right? So thank you for letting me say
Again,
that.
I'm just serious. I don't want to be sitting here in a vacuum, saying, oh, we should be at $120,000 or we want this, a 20%, blah, blah. When our average constituent or mean income, we should know what that is and it should be relative to the germane to the conversation. So. Okay, do we have,
Well, I think, I think that's an excellent point. I really do. And if you take a look at what the elected official salaries are, I think they're pretty appropriate for this. Mean income is high and low. So it can go much higher, much lower than that. With the poverty rate that we have significant pockets of poverty here in Kane County. But from what I've heard from other counties as well, Kane County is a very fiscally conservative county,
It's true.
and it serves you well with this compensation. You don't come to Kane County to be an elected official to get wealthy.
Well said.
That has never been the case. It is truly about public service and good government.
Mhm.
And no one is here, you don't run for office to make a lot of money. You run here to serve the people to the best of your ability.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, Alan,
Hey, Deb.
hi. Thanks for letting me.
Deb, before you go on,
Sure.
Corinne, thank you for those words. I mean, I do believe that of my contemporaries in the room, I truly believe that we are here as a service. We are not here, and again, this is at the 24, my 24 brethren here. It is a act of service to our community. At $25,000 a year, we are, we are not doing this for the income. And for all of you to take time out of your day today to even be here to discuss this at lunch, this is,
Yeah.
I commend you and I applaud that. Barbara, hang on. Deb, Deb, go ahead.
I was, and again, you know what, thank you for those words. I think that that's what public service is all about. I just wanted to add to Madam Chairman's comments that I make a differentiation between people who serve full-time and people who serve in our position, which is more part-time. And if we had elected people, elected countywide officers who were spending time in Puerto Vallarta and on, world tours and something, then all of our opinions would change. But we've been really lucky here. Kane County has had people who really come in every day and work their tails off in those county-wide elected positions. So that's why I think it's reasonable to extend to them, even though we haven't done it before, to extend to them the same courtesy that we do to our employees, our union and our non-union and our management team. And that's why I think we should be giving them an increase each year in addition to their base salary. They work hard enough to deserve it. And we try to treat everybody in the county as fairly as we can. Thanks for letting me talk.
Debbie, thank you. Barbara?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to agree with Madam Chair. That was really well said. When you look at a lot of these elected offices, when people run, it's not easy to run a campaign, especially countywide. It's very expensive. It's very hard work. But when you're elected, these people know what their salaries are going to be when they're elected. And look at the county clerk has been here, gosh, I know at least over 20 years. Our recorder, she's been here a long, long time. Our treasurer, our previous treasurer was here, I believe, over 20 years. So people are happy working here. People, I think, don't look back and say, well, I could have traveled to DuPage and made, 20,000 more a year or whatever. And we are very fiscally conservative, and we're really, I think in Kane County, we really care about the average resident whose taxes, we don't want to raise those taxes. We want to make sure they can afford to stay here and be comfortable with living here. So thank you. And that was well said, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Barbara, I appreciate that. And I want to point out, while everyone was speaking, I asked Blair to just Google from the census information. And it looks like the median household income for Kane County household income is $83,000. And the per person is $37,000. So while we're talking, I just want to remind us that while we're talking about some of these salaries, the average salary for our constituent is $37,000. Their household income is 83. So just keep that in mind while we're discussing these. And And I don't know what the household income is in Ogle County or, DuPage. I just want us to bear in mind who we are and where our roots are, so. With that said, I don't think we have anything else on the agenda for today. Madam Chair, you formed the ad hoc. I appreciate you doing that. I want to be sure that we're staying true to our charter, that we're answering the questions, that we've done the research. And believe me, this young lady, Jamie Labrillo, 9:30 last night, still on the phone with me, diving through, trying to figure out what's the appropriate data to move forward, and then what's minutia and overkill. And I want to thank you other three board members that have come forward and, with your time, and you've been honest, because I'm sure you've received phone calls from other board members. I'm sure you've had pressures to do this or do that. And at some point you have to vote your conscience and speak your mind. And this is a scary place to show your true colors sometimes.
So next steps, I would like to be able to have you include this information at next week's committee of the whole. If perhaps both you and Ms. Labrillo can prepare some statements and put some charts together so that the committee of the whole can get an understanding of the rationale and your recommendation. Of course, the committee of the whole cannot vote on this, but it will give them an opportunity to reflect, to ask questions. And then when we go to the next county board meeting, we can start making decisions. or go through
Can I
finance.
ask you, in this, will the Citizens Advisory be giving a report
No.
and the ad hoc, or should we incorporate their data into ours and bring it
The
forward?
Citizens Advisory Committee was given to you for your reference.
Okay, perfect. Just making sure that's clear.
You're in the next step.
Jamie, are you okay assisting with this?
Certainly.
Thank you.
I think the full board will find it helpful to hear what your discussion was and the rationale for it.
Karen will have the finest notes you've ever seen. Spectacular. Okay, Mr. Ford, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mike Kenny's not here, so I can't do it on his behalf. So yes, we do.
Barbara,
I second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much for your time.